Hey, what is going on, guys? This is the Bogey Free Podcast with your host, Evan Cheney, Matt Jones, and we have a special guest tonight. We have Brad from FG Degenerates. How you doing today, Brad?
I'm good. How you guys doing?
Oh, man, can't complain. Eagles won.
Oh, God, here we fucking go.
Those greased up polls. I'm
Oh,
telling
my
you.
God.
There was good reason for that to happen.
This is like the WOT matchup for me.
How?
There could not be a more hateable fucking Super Bowl unless the Cowboys were in it. That's the only way it could possibly get worse.
No, riots. There'd be riots in the streets across the world if Cowboys and Patriots were in it.
Yeah, that's more than enough football talk for this episode, just for the record.
Good Lord. Yeah, well, I mean, we do have a tournament to talk about, I hear. We have the Farmers Insurance Open this week. We have a special golfer coming back in the DFS golf foray. Albeit way too expensive, but that is an opinion we can share.
There's no
in a moment.
There's no price too expensive for Tiger.
How dare you, sir?
Have you guys seen his course history though?
Oh no, the course history is great. No, I'll give you that.
That's okay, right? I think he's gotten around here a couple times.
He's played here before.
Just once or twice.
Yeah. No, but before we get into all that, Matt, you have a few words about our listener league from last week.
Yeah, so shout out to Ice Hoya. We chatted a little bit on Twitter on Sunday night. He took down the listener league with a 5-6 lineup. Just had it all figured out other than Brant, and Snedeker coming in at 44% didn't really hurt him that much. So yeah, we like I mentioned to Evan, we're recording a little late tonight, so we won't go too in depth with that. We can head over to the Farmers. Just wanted to shout him out for a solid lineup this weekend.
Of course. So yeah, we'll get right into this. Again, we have the Farmers Insurance Open for this week, and Brad, I'll go to you first. Talk about the course a little bit. What stats someone might be looking for to select a golfer player pool for this week, and all that jazz.
Yeah. So obviously, when it comes to the course, they're a little bit unique. I mean, it's not drastically unique from last week, but we have multiple courses that are being played this week. The North course going to be played for 1 round. South will be played for 3. So most of what I'm focusing is going to be on the South course. But historically, Torrey has been, it favors bombers. You're going to have to be able to score on par 5s. There's going to be a green and regulation aspect. There's probably going to be a little bit of scrambling, although I don't have that in my model right now. But I do have strokes gained off the tee, and then I have sort of the standard strokes gained tee to green and strokes gained approach, which these days tend to make their way into pretty much every model I look at.
Okay, that sounds. Matt, do you have anything to add to that, or?
Yeah, no, that's kind of where I'm at too. Definitely one of the longest courses. The South plays close to 7,700 yards, which is just monstrous. So you definitely want to get in some guys who can put it out there a bit, and some guys that are good with their longer irons. Just a couple of things to consider for this week. But yeah, I mean, let's get right into this, because we have a lot to talk about compared to last week, right? We had like one guy in the top 20 last week, and we have a decent top of the field at the Farmers. So why don't we roll right into it?
Yeah, I mean, we have at the very top, we have John Rahm, who, for whatever reason, I faded last week. The golf gods were, for whatever reason, I was like, oh, Patrick Reed over Rahm. What could go wrong? He didn't do shit. It was awful.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have him over at DraftKings at 11,800. And then we have other guys. We have 3 other guys here in the 10K and up range, and Fowler, Matsuyama, Justin Rose. So Brad, I'll throw it to you first. Who is your favorite in this range? Are you going to make any tournament leverage plays? Talk about these 10K and up guys.
Yeah, I think it's hard not to to say that Rahm is your favorite in this range. I think for the most part, that's probably the answer you're going to get from everybody. He'll be the highest owned golfer probably in the field, but certainly in this upper range, and for good reason. I mean, his last 3 events, he's won, finished second place, and won, and he won here last year. So, there's really no reason not to think that Rahm would continue to do well. The podcast that I'm on, Kenny and I talked a little bit about whether or not Rahm would fall back a little bit. One, because there's a good chance he'll be paired with Tiger Woods. And two, he finished with a playoff. They're not traveling far, but that's a long grind for a guy who, we have to remind ourselves is still fairly new on tour. All that being said, he's just good. I mean, he's second in the world now, and I don't see any reason not to play Rahm at 11-8. Like I said, he'll be popular. If you're looking for somebody who's going to be lower owned, I think Hideki might be that guy. He doesn't really have any stellar course history here. Of the 4 times he's played, he's missed the cut twice. 33rd and 16th were his other 2 finishes. So nothing really stellar for the price we're talking about with Hideki at 10,800. But Hideki has finished top 5 in his last 3 events. So, we're still talking about a world-class golfer here. I think Hideki will go strongly overlooked for Rose, Fowler, and Rahm. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. I mean, obviously, Rahm is always going to be one of my favorite plays whenever he's in the field. And like you alluded to, there's nothing really like course history wise to really hang your hat on with the rest of these guys. It's sort of a mixed bag, right? I mean, you see a lot of cuts, whether it's Ricky, he has obviously the Farmers sponsorship, so he has a lot of obligations during this week. Hideki 2 of 4. Rose missed a couple of cuts here, and then did well last year. So, yeah, I mean, I think you can sort of make an argument for any of them just based on pedigree and talent, obviously, but Rahm will always be up there. And I think I'll wait a couple more weeks for Ricky when we get to Florida. I think that's when I'll hop back on him.
So, I mean, are either of you two guys so if we're going to say Rahm is going to be one of the chalkier golfers of this slate and the chalkiest golfer in this range, I mean, is there any argument to make any sort of leverage play here? Like just any of these other 3 guys over Rahm in any way?
Yeah, I mean, from what I'm thinking, at least ownership wise, I don't know, Brad, maybe you can speak to this a little bit better, but just I don't really see a reason why any of the other 3 guys up here would be like much higher or much lower than the other 3. Is there anybody jumping out to you that you think is going to go under-owned out of those other 3 guys?
I would say Hideki's probably the one.
Yeah.
I think Justin Rose will get some looks. He's been playing phenomenally. Like the 22nd place finish last week was, nothing really special. But when you look, 3-4 months back, he's had 3 wins internationally, and it has finished top 10 in 6 of his last 7 events. The one event he didn't was last week. So I think people will recognize that with Rose. He, again, with the course history, nothing really spectacular, but with the 4th place finish last year, I think people will be on board with Justin Rose, probably more so than the other 3 guys outside of Rahm. Fowler generally always is relatively popular, pretty much no matter what. So I think Fowler will be quite a bit higher, but really I think Hideki is ultimately going to be the one that, if you're really looking to leverage somebody who can win this tournament at low ownership, I think that's your guy.
Right. Yeah, I think that makes some sense. But honestly, enough. We got to get to the main event now.
Yeah.
Let's get after it. Let's talk about the guy we've all been waiting for here.
Oh man,
this is the 9,700 range.
Yeah,
exactly.
Just the one range.
I was gonna try to sneak in a Patrick Cantlay justification there, but no, there's one guy all of us on the field are getting very hard on for right now, and for very good reason. I mean, Tiger Woods, when he's not sleeping around with God knows who.
Perkins waitresses.
Yeah. Hey, they have good pie. The
I'm just
sweets are
gonna leave
there.
that one alone.
Sweets are no, but yeah, there's definitely an argument for Tiger Woods here. And Brad, I'll let you speak on this first. At 9,700 for a guy that hasn't played much golf, in a while, it's kind of hard to pay a price tag like that. But his course history would say otherwise.
Yeah, I can and I will. No, I'm kidding. I probably will actually. To be serious though, I will play some Tiger Woods just for pure entertainment fact and because for those of you who have been listening to the Fantasy Golf Degenerates podcast or following me on Twitter, hashtag Tiger Boner is a regular part of my vernacular. So yeah, I'm a big Tiger Woods fan. Honestly, realistically, if I had a friend who didn't know golf ask me, should I play Tiger Woods this week? My answer would probably be no. At 9,700, we just don't know enough yet about who this guy is going to be coming back to really advocate playing too much of Tiger. I'm shocked that his price is this high, but I'm really confused when it comes to his ownership. We talked a little bit, Kenny and I did, but how popular do you think Tiger will be at 9,700? I expect there will be an influx of new players coming from football. There's no football this week. There's, pretty big prize pools on DraftKings. Is he going to be popular or not? That's the question.
He'll be way more popular than someone at 125 to 1 odds should ever be. Right. So
yeah, and priced way higher for that.
Oh yeah, no, it's nuts. Like, there's absolutely no reason to play Tiger, but I don't know. Matt, what are your takes here?
Yeah, I'm thinking the more that I've thought about it, I've sort of been thinking like maybe I won't torpedo any of my lineups and I'll just get in like a top 20 bet on him to hedge against like my ultra tilt if he does anything this weekend. I think that's probably where I'm going to end up going, honestly, because I don't know that we're going to really have a good feel for what his ownership is going to be, right? Like you mentioned, it could be just public random people that don't really play golf that much that just want to throw in a lineup with Tiger and see what happens. That could like severely inflate his ownership, or maybe everybody's just going to be like, you know what, fuck it, I'm not going to play him because who the hell knows, and we'll wait till next time he's out. So I honestly, unless I get a really good feel for what I think his ownership's going to be, I'll probably be avoiding him and just take some top 20, top whatever bet. Even just like make the cut bet just to make some money off of Tiger in 2018.
I think the general rule of continue.
I was going to say, I think if I had to set a line as the ownership right now, it'd be right around like 12.5%, 13%. But the problem is I could see it going to 20 something percent, or I could see it at 5%. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like, there's so much scale right now, depending on, what the general public is going to do. And I'm not really used to having to guess that from week to week.
Yeah, I was thinking in my head like 9 to 12 was like just my gut reaction when I saw the price.
You guys want to hear a hot conspiracy theory I'm just coming up with now for DraftKings? So DraftKings is making Tiger Woods play this tournament so that people will have like way too much of him than they should. And then when he gets cut, people can enter the showdown Pro Bowl slate.
See, the thing is, I don't know that DraftKings aren't enough to like, even if they were thinking along those lines, I don't give them enough credit at this point to be forward thinking like that. I think they're just throwing him in. And
John Aguilar plays chess. All right. The man plays chess, not checkers.
Yeah, I think they probably, the algorithm probably spit out like 8,100 for his price, and they were like, "Fuck it, let's put it at 97 and see what happens."
It's
still even 8,100. What were his odds? I mean, what are Tiger's odds?
125 to 1.
Yeah, so at 8,100, I mean, 125 to 1 is probably, I would bet, a bit lower. You're not going to find too many guys in the 8,100 range that are 125 to 1.
No, people are just nuts. People are honestly just nuts at that range. But anyway, there are other golfers. There are other alternatives here. We have, Harmon, Cantlay, Day, Leishman, Snedeker. Can we just talk about Brian Harmon for a second and how he's probably performing well over his mean?
I would agree with that. I'm not that bullish on Brian Harmon. I think Kenny made a great point that we've been playing on some courses that are on the shorter end of things. Even some of the longer courses were courses that were par 70s, basically they didn't play long. Even Kapalua is completely hilly and windy and seems like a longer course, but does not play that long. Now we're turning the corner here, and we're on a course that favors bombers, which is not historically been Brian Harmon's strengths. We saw him come down to earth at least a little bit last week with his 20th place finish, but he's just been hitting top 10s every week he's been playing for 15 weeks or whatever it is. The other thing is that historically this has kind of been a righty course. Guys who kind of hit that soft cut. Brian Harmon is a lefty, obviously. So I don't know. That's a little bit more of a narrative probably than anything. I mean, if you think he's going to play well, then play him. But I'm off of Brian Harmon for some other guys in this range.
Yeah, I think his approach game has been trending in the wrong direction too. Since the Tournament of Champions, he's been going down pretty steadily. So, and at the Sony, he gained 8 billion strokes putting. And then last week he didn't. And it was a more reasonable Harmon outcome. So I think that we'll see more of that if his putter isn't hot.
Just a random side note or side question. Are we weighing strokes gained around the green more or less this week than normal?
I won't be taking it into account. Okay. I know that I have seen some stuff out there with people talking about scrambling and the need to have that in your game on this course. Mm-hmm. Personally, I don't have it in my model right now, but I don't see anything wrong with considering it.
Yeah, no, it was just something I wanted to add in there.
I think the percentage of greens hit at this tournament in general is pretty average. It's not too high or too low. So it's not I'll target scrambling in events that are, a little bit more difficult to hit greens. It's not this week isn't a time that I'm really paying a ton of attention to it. It helps obviously. But.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, I was just a little question I had there. So yeah, I mean, outside of Brian Harmon, we have some other guys here. Are you guys going aggressively on any of these other golfers, or what's going on there?
I personally really like Brandt Snedeker. I think this is a spot where if you're talking about ownership and you're talking about leveraging some other guys, Snedeker is going to be my guy. He obviously let everyone down. He was fairly popular last week. His price was really low, 7,700 or whatever it was. Now he's up to 9K, which I think is going to turn people off to him. Aside from the fact that he was really high owned last week, but he looked rusty. He didn't really look injured. There's nothing really yet in the events that he's played since coming back that's shown that he's struggling with the injury still. Obviously, you're going to have some rust in this situation, but Brandt Snedeker has absolutely elite course history here. So, with 2 wins and 7 top 10s, a couple of second place finishes. I mean, why not this week for Brandt Snedeker is the question that I'm asking myself. And I think knowing that, he's going to be extremely low owned, I think, the upside is worth the risk in this case.
Matt?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And I also think, if you're sort of in the school of Vegas odds, I think Jason Day at his price versus his odds, I think he's at 18-1 right now. Last time I looked, I think that he makes some sense in this range just because there's going to be, I feel an ownership vacuum in this low 9K range. And it's either going to be, above or below. So I think that he will definitely be in a lineup or two of mine just from that perspective. But come on, you know where I'm going in a couple minutes, so we might as well just get there at this point, right, Ev?
Oh yeah, no, well, yeah, I think we've discussed our 9K guys, so yeah, we'll go to our 8K, and of course Shane Lowry has to be the chalk here, right, Matt?
God no,
and,
God no. My boys right next to each other. I think.
Oh wow, yeah.
I tweeted out when the stars align and everything's right, and it's Gary Woodland and Tony Finau just right next to each other. Just I don't know who's the big spoon,
just
and who's
calling
the little
your
spoon,
name,
but
just hoping that you'll click that button.
Oh yeah, I mean, what better spot to start your cash lineup than just clicking on the two of them? Just lock them in right away. And I mean, I'm joking.
That's where I'll be starting too. Honestly, I'll be playing Finau and. Probably, I'm a little more on the fence on Woodland, but I think I'm going to start a lot of my lineups with both of those same two guys you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at 3 straight top 25s for Finau, couple of top 20s, and going back a couple years further, you got a top 10 from Woodland. He seems to fit this course well, like you were talking about, moving the ball left to right. Definitely is Woodland's game, and he can poke it a little bit. So. Those two guys I'll always play, but it actually, makes some sense this week. Doesn't always make sense when I play them, but this week it does.
Oh yeah. All right. So yeah, we obviously have our Finau and Woodland takes.
You want to take your
Finau is known as Tiger Finau around my household. But it doesn't work anymore now because Tiger exists again. So
that's true.
I have to think of a better nickname.
I like it.
Yeah.
All right, Evan, give us your 30 seconds on Grayson Murray, even though he's 100 to 1, surrounded by 45 to 1s. But go ahead.
Dude, the Hillbilly was fire last week. I played him in our listener league. Man, dude,
did you see him slide down the bunker?
No, I didn't.
Did you happen to catch that? You should look up that GIF. It's him just literally like a slide, just sliding down the edge of that giant bunker on whatever it was, 16 or 17. And it was ripe for comments. Let's just put it that way. There was a million different ways you could have gone with that.
I mean, sliding into something, whatever. Let's just go.
I understand. I understand why people don't like him. I get it. But he's so good.
I know, but you're also an Eagles fan, so how self-aware can you be? You
can do emotions you like, but at the same time, Grayson Murray is just a monster with the irons, and that has to be something, right? I mean, 8K though. I will agree that 8K might be very expensive for him, but he's still a good golfer, and people should at least acknowledge that.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I think I'd rather go a little bit cheaper and catch on with some Johnny Vegas, but I guess we'll get there in a second too. Brad, who else do you like in this 8K range?
I think the obvious one that we haven't talked about is CH3. I mean, it's another guy with absolutely just filthy course history. There's not really that many times where you got a guy who consistently makes cuts like CH3 does in a spot like this where he sort of has a little bit of upside. I mean, obviously CH3's MO is that, he just doesn't win, but, he consistently hits top 10s at this event among basically every event on the West Coast. But 8,300 seems like one of the easier decisions in cash. I'm not going to overthink it. I'll play it. I know people sometimes sort of second guess whether or not CH3 is someone they want to go with, but these guys with elite course history like this that just continue to rattle them off do it so frequently that, I've tried to stop myself from second guessing these spots. So I'm going to plug CH3 in. And then I like Ollie a little bit in GPP formats. 8,500. There's rumors that Ollie is actually going to get a hat deal at some point and wear a hat, which is I'm not going to know who he is for the next 6 months.
Yeah. No, you think about it. It's like
That's bad for the
weird.
brand.
It is.
I don't know how. Yeah, I
But
won't
think
be
about how much
rostering
money
him the
he's
first
probably
time.
leaving on the table by not wearing a
A
hat.
ton.
Like those sponsorship deals are not worth nothing.
Maybe this was just like the long con to like get like people to start throwing like real money at him for a hat deal, you know? Like maybe he's just been planning this for years.
See, that's chess.
That's what I'm saying. You know, you make these chess moves.
We're here for all the conspiracies on Bogey 3. The one thing that I did want to point out about Howell, and you're right, he just has great course history here. He's run like incredibly hot with his putter. Just looking back over the last few years that he's done well, he's putted extremely well, which I think, I don't know, after a couple of years of it, I think that maybe there could be something there that he just reads the greens and plays it well here. So definitely something to keep an eye on if he can keep that going. Hopefully, I'm sure, I don't know, like Data Golf or somebody will at me telling me that's not a thing that doesn't carry over, but it has for him at this particular course. So who knows?
Mm-hmm.
See, that's you second guessing. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Way too many people do that. I don't know why. Like the problem is I used to do that all the time. And then I would just look back and like, why didn't I play CH3 when I knew for sure he was going to get a top 15 or a top 20? Like,
especially at this price,
not his best price, but it's definitely low enough that like I'll just take him. I'm not going to second guess it.
Yeah, if he was like Tiger priced, maybe not, but 8,300 I can swallow, because he doesn't need to win at that price, right? Like if he's 9,400 or 9,800, you kind of want, at least like a top 3 or something. But yeah, I think that makes sense.
All right, so I think that covers our. Matt? Do you have any Xander takes for this week?
Oh, I was just gonna jump in and say I really like Xander. Go ahead, Matt. Though I want to hear your take.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big Xander guy in general. Obviously, the ball striking, at least on approach, hasn't really been there the last couple times we've seen him. Hopefully, that turns around sooner than later. I mean, you can see that he missed a couple of cuts here over his last few years, but he's obviously a different guy than he was like this time 2 years ago. So I'll always have a little bit of him. I think his odds at 60 to 1 in this range sort of put him in line at a decent price. So I'll have a little bit of him. I'm not as bullish on him as I usually am, though.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think like long-term season wise, I'm really bullish on Xander. 8,100 in terms of sheer talent, knowing that I'm bullish on this guy, I think is a good price. And he's a guy who's good off the tee, who can score on par 5s, decent green and regulation, tee to green okay, but more because of his off the tee abilities. So, I don't know. I mean, obviously he's missed the cut here twice in a row, but I'm okay with it for a lot of the same reasons you mentioned.
All right, so yeah, obviously you guys have your Xander takes. Anyone else in that 8K range you guys have any opinions on?
I won't be playing Patrick Reed, so he can go scratch.
Smart man.
Strong opinion from a strong man.
No, I was just about I take the train to school every day because I commute to and from Temple. I saw Patrick Reed score and I was ready to just jump on the train tracks. But then I read that they
didn't have a good Thursday.
Yeah, it was awful, but I digress. So we'll move to our 7K guys, where we have someone who did succeed for me quite a bit. We have Bud Cauley up here at 7,900. Has some pretty good not recent form, but last 50 round data as far as strokes gained is concerned. In several different categories. Brad, I don't know. You on Bud Cauley this week?
I like Bud Cauley okay, but I don't know if this is the week for him. I want to say that Cauley is probably in sort of that same boat where, he's played well. I mean, he hasn't been playing a ton, but he played well last week. And, I think a course like the one last week makes a little bit more sense than this week. He's not historically been great on par 5s. He's the tee to green approach guy, and he's not terrible off the tee. There could be something there. I think he'll be fairly popular. I mean, not uber chalky, but I think he'll be played quite a bit. Probably just not for me this week.
Yeah, no, I mean, he had a strong week last week. I just thought there might be some kind of, but no, I get your analysis. It makes sense. Where was I going?
But
here?
you can play him. I mean, don't let me tell you not to play him.
No. Your analysis is much stronger than anything I could come up with. To be honest with you. Honestly, with golf, some of my plays are just. We'll get to some of my plays later on because they are in the field.
Yeah, Evan's problem is that he's like he feels strongest about like a guy that's 6,700 instead of like just being like, yeah, Rahm is a good play because he's like the only guy in the top 25 in the world in the field. Last week he fades him. This week he'll be like, you know who I really like? This Lanto Griffin kid is going to be pretty good one year. You know?
Oh,
they should have an entire site dedicated to my, ridiculous cheap golfer takes. But that would be fun. All right, but yeah, Matt, who are you on in the 7K range or in this upper 7K range?
Yeah, it's a lot of my usual guys, right? I mean, I'll always play Vegas. He seems to have figured some things out over the last couple of times we've seen him. Thank God, because I'm very tired of just pumping money down that fucking toilet. And I want to believe in Uline because I am definitely bullish on him in general this year, but God, I mean, he gained so many strokes putting last week that I don't know if that's going to be a thing that continues. He was kind of neutral everywhere else strokes gained wise, so not something that I'm crazy about. Brad, what are your thoughts on Spawn this week after missing the cut?
I'm thinking that, purely because of ownership, he's probably a good guy to return to. Typically we see when these guys burn too many people, and I think JJ Spawn probably was on that list. They tend to go fairly underowned the next week. I mean, he sort of fits all the categories. I didn't give him too hard of a look, but when you look at, like strokes gained tee to green, strokes gained approach, green and regulation, he's top 10 in the field in all three of those. 21st in par 5 scoring. So yeah, I mean, I'll take a little bit of him now that you said it at 7,500. I'm not too afraid of the price either.
Yeah, I think he has to get his short game figured out. The last 2 weeks, that's really what's done him in. He's been gaining strokes on approach, like you mentioned, but it's just his fucking putter's just been brutal. And even around the green, like at the Sony, he lost 2.5 strokes around the green. Like that's a lot around the green. You usually don't gain or lose that many from that close. So something to keep an eye on. But if he can figure that out and he rolls a couple, I think it could be a good week for JJ.
He lost 2.5 strokes there.
A huge percentage of the guys who win this event have historically had top 10s here, and JJ Spawn fits that bill. He finished 9th in his first go around here. So, historically this event, these courses have not been particularly kind to newcomers. So it kind of makes more sense than I realized when I first took a look at him.
There we go. All the JJ. You heard it here first, guys.
Yeah, I'll go all in on that. What about Knox? I know Knox is a guy that I keep rostering this season. Pretty solid results so far. Are we on him this week?
I will be. I'm really bullish on Knox. This is like purely narrative based, but Knox played really solid golf for a really extended period of time. And we've seen it before, but we've also seen where guys, fall off kind of like Russell Knox did a long stretch towards the end of last season, and then come away from the break and they either get themselves healthy or they'll work on their game and figure something out on the range. And then they come back after this long break and play really well. And it takes quite a while for DraftKings and really the rest of the fantasy industry to adjust to that stuff. Like I said, it's purely narrative based. So, it's me trying to look into a crystal ball and figure out what's going to happen with Knox the rest of the season. But I'd rather be early on him than too late.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's obvious, like he hit his absolute floor last year, right? Like there's literally nowhere to go but up. And yeah, I mean, we saw it last week. He put together, I mean, he didn't light the world on fire, but a top 30 where he lost strokes putting, I think is a good sign. If he, like I said, kind of the same thing with a lot of these guys. You just need to get hot for a week with your putter. If everything else is going, then you're looking at a top 15. So definitely for this price, I think he's worth a hard look this week.
Okay. Yeah, another golfer. There's two golfers that are 7,400 that I want to talk about. One is JB Holmes. The other is Francisco Molinari. Is there any? There's definitely a lot, I think, with going for Francisco this week, especially at 7,400.
Yeah, I mean his lack of distance scares me a little bit, just from like a fit perspective. I mean, I don't know, Brad. What do you think about Francesco?
I'm really bullish on Francesco. I played Francesco Molinari in cash a huge percent of the weeks last year.
Yeah.
Nobody got on him for whatever reason, but he made cuts everywhere, including courses that were long courses, bomber type courses like this. The thing is, my theory is that, he's such a good iron player, especially with the long irons, that, he can get away with not being quite as long off the tee.
Yeah.
When you look at his tee to green numbers, the only thing I can think is, I mean, he hits greens no matter regardless of his distance off the tee. He's sixth in the field in green and regulation. He's third in strokes gained tee to green. So, to me, he makes perfect sense. And I've seen a year worth of Molinari do well on every course that doesn't make sense for him enough to feel reasonably confident that you can play him here and get some consistency with a little bit of upside. And like I said, I think he's going to go into my cash lineup this week too. Until I see something different, I'll get burned by him a few times. But I think, I saw enough last year to make this viable, and he consistently is underpriced.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay, Matt, do you have any other, like in this upper 7K range? Do you have any other thoughts here?
I mean, I got my boy here, another one of the brand plays in Kevin Toy, but he's just been pretty bad lately. So I probably won't have any of him this week. But I'll definitely have my eye open if he looks like he's putting well. Thursday, Friday, I'll probably throw him in some weekend stuff because I think he fits here, but he just hasn't really been doing anything well recently, so it's hard to pull the trigger there.
What about Kyle Stanley? Also 7,400. I think he's pretty cheap. I mean, last time we saw him, it was the Sony. He's kind of struggled. He struggled with strokes gained approach, but he gained 6.1 strokes putting.
Yeah, I don't know. Brad, how do you feel about guys like that? That scares me a little bit.
Yeah, I still don't know what to feel about Kyle Stanley. I have him marked. We talked about him on our podcast. I think he's okay. I mean, he's okay to play. He he's really good in terms of green and regulation, or has been.
Yeah, I'm
not sure. Like he probably has the distance too, so it makes sense. But I'm not sure. Like you said, with the approaches, I have some fears with Stanley. I mean, let's put it that way. I will play him. I think that he makes sense, especially with how his performance has been. But I don't have a real strong take on him because I don't feel really strongly either way. I think he's okay to play, but I'm not necessarily gonna knock anybody's door down trying to get him to play Stanley either.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's again another good buy, like Vegas odds versus the salary. He's 60 to 1. in a sea of like 150 to 1, 250 to 1 odds all around him right there. So maybe it makes more sense than I was originally thinking. I just always kind of overlook him for whatever reason. It's just one of those guys that I don't really ever find myself rostering.
Yeah, so going down the pricing scale here, we're obviously now in the bottom half of the 7K range. I don't know. Any of you guys have opinions on what about Brandon Harkins? 7,200. Guy has been doing decently. I mean, 25th and 8th in his last 2 tournaments.
Yeah, I like Harkins. I talked about him on the podcast. My fear is that now I've heard more than just a few people talk about him. So I think he'll be on the popular side of things as in the way of this price range. I would expect him to get his name clicked quite a bit. But certainly has some upside. I mean, I said on our podcast, there's always a few of these guys that come from the web.com tour that we don't really expect that end up, playing really consistently and kind of coming out of their shell as rookies. So, this is a guy who wasn't really on my radar coming in, but is probably, has made my watch list for sure and makes a great play, I think, at 7,200 with his consistency. And, we have yet to see whether or not he really has upside and ability to win a tournament like this, but certainly a play at 7,200.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's another guy. A lot of strokes gained putting, little concerning for me. So hopefully he can keep that going. But yeah, we'll see. And we obviously know the other guy at 7,200 that we absolutely will not be playing under any circumstance, Keegan Bradley. So we're good on that.
Wow, you came prepared.
Never, ever.
Yeah, I'm a well-known Keegan hater. So
not a fan.
Yeah. People actually, it's kind of funny because we do a listener league for our podcast as well. I can't tell you how many tweets I get when Keegan has that like one event where he finds a way not to screw up one round. And everybody's like, ha, I played him in the listener league, and, like higher than you, or God forbid, somebody last year, I think, won the listener league with Keegan Bradley, and I just did not hear the end of it for the entire week until the next week.
Yeah, that hurts. That's not ideal.
Yeah, because then the next day, we review the lineup and go through the ownership and stuff. And it's like, I really got to sit here and talk about how Keegan Bradley was such a great play this week when he wasn't. Like it happened, but
No, that's gotta suck, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So looking at some of these other golfers here in that 7,200 range, I mean, you get Bryson DeChambeau. Any thoughts on that?
I'm not going to go back to DeChambeau, in my opinion.
Yeah. He looked pretty awful at the Tournament of Champions, so I'll be staying away. I'll look out for his commercials, but I won't be playing him this weekend.
I still don't get what, like, Microsoft is this huge company. They have every economic resource they could ever imagine, and all they could scrape was Bryson DeChambeau.
Hey,
I mean, don't you think as companies, they're like, if I own a huge company and I'm thinking about investing in a golfer for my brand, like, I would probably not be chasing the John Rahms of the world unless, I'm an absolutely massive company that has more money than I know what to do with.
Yeah.
I would probably be looking at some of these young up and coming guys that have huge potential.
But don't these companies, like, doesn't Microsoft know how to put together a focus group and just say, oh, like, okay, like, hey, millennials, because
people don't wear those types of hats anymore. They didn't. Lord knows.
I don't know.
You don't like the single length irons? Well,
can you imagine trying to like sell the? I know they sell them now.
Yeah, they do.
Cobra, right? Is it Cobra that he's? But like, are they selling those things? I cannot imagine. Like,
yeah, I saw them at the PGA store the other day.
My 8-year-old kid, going to get some clubs. Like, do you want the same clubs that everyone's used for eternity, or do you want these things? And we'll have to find a coach who knows how to teach you how to
seriously
swing with one length irons. I mean, I'm all for new stuff and advancing the game and stuff, but I can't imagine they're selling a ton of those things.
No,
it's such a weird concept. All right. Anyway, as weird as that is, so yeah, we have. I mean, that's pretty much the 7,200 range. There's nothing really going there. Let's talk about Glove Daddy.
Can you imagine if this fucking guy could putt? He's so bad.
If he could putt, my pants would be off right now.
Like, he needs Chubbs to like come back from the dead and teach him on like a mini golf course somewhere. Like he lost like over 4 strokes putting. Like he's such a piece of shit. Like he would be so good otherwise. He's just such an idiot. Oh my God. Like literally just go with your wife to mini golf and learn. Like same thing with Hideki. It's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Because it's like he gained 5.6 strokes in the career builder, 6.6 tee to green, 5.2 approach, and then he loses 4.3 putting.
Yeah, he's terrible. He's the worst.
Like, yeah, it's awful. But I still am attached to the play because I know when he starts going on those birdie streaks that inevitably end with bogey streaks, he'll get his points.
Yeah. All right.
So
you won last week. All right, it's fine. He cracked the top 30. Congratulations. He was 29th last week, Ev. Way to be.
He's fine. He's fine.
He's one of those guys where like I'm scrolling down the list of golfers and looking at the stats and it's like, he's 5th in the field in strokes gained tee to green. He's 2nd in green regulation. He's 10th in par 5, and I'm just like slowly clicking the mouse like,
see,
I'm not so sure because you just don't trust it. I mean, it's just the putting. I mean, you just can't trust it. There's no real. I mean, the thing is, like putting. Matt, you alluded to it a lot of times where it's just this highly variable stat, and you see these guys who are just putting lights out, and they're going to come down to earth. We've been waiting for the other side of that coin for Glover for a long time. It just hasn't happened.
It'll come.
Yeah.
No, I think we have enough of a sample that he's just bad.
Yeah.
All right. We need to I need to get this out. Like, what is DraftKings doing? Like Stewart Sink at 6,800 is egregious.
Oh yeah, no,
it's egregious.
No, that was definitely on my list of things to discuss. Like,
yeah, Kenny and I had a short debate about this, and actually, I'm on your side, Matt. Kenny was not so bullish on Stewart Sink, but the dude just is a top 25 machine. I mean, there's no reason not to think that. I mean, I guess the only thing about Stewart Sink at this course is that he's not very long off the tee. Is like putting it really nicely, but I don't know if I really care. You know what I mean? Like he's going to keep, making cuts and keep finishing top 30, and he's going to keep being priced as low as he is. I'm probably going to get burnt at some point and I'll be okay with it,
Yeah, I mean, he was 20th here last year, and this time last year was not the Stewart Sink that we had at the end of the year, right? Like he was still kind of bouncing all over the place at this point last year. And really ended up settling in as the year went on. So they keep putting him under 7K, then I'm more than happy to put him into a few lineups every week because you're pretty much guaranteed a cut. And of course, now that I'm saying this, it's not gonna happen. But that's how it goes sometimes. But I will be all over Stewart Sink as usual this week. Any other little dart throws you like down here, Brad?
Yeah, I think the other one I have marked who I think will be somewhat popular is Chesson Hadley at 6,800. Has played pretty good statistically, looks really good, which is I think part of why people will jump on board. I think just in terms of sheer talent, the dude caught fire in the Web.com Tour finals, and has really been playing well statistically since. So. doesn't have great course history, but at 6,800, I really think his price is egregious. So I'll take advantage of that. He was way higher price than this last week. I can't remember what it was. I want to say it was in the 9K range, maybe.
Yeah.
So you know,
I think it was 9K even.
Sheer talent wise, I think he belongs in a different range than the high sixes. So I'll take some Hadley. You know, he's a guy I'm bullish on for the year. So I'll take a little bit of Chesson Hadley. I don't have much else marked down here really to talk about. There's some strong, like kind of up and coming web.com type guys that may have some upside, but outside of that, I don't feel real strongly. I'll throw a few darts, but won't take anybody too heavily.
Yeah, I mean, I like Jeff Ogilvy as much as the next guy, but him being the same price as Chesson Hadley is a little ridiculous this week.
Yeah, maybe Ogilvy's putting will offset Glover's, and we can like create some sort of super monster that
just combined, just make a little Frankenstein.
Yeah.
I don't even know if Ogilvy's putting is still a thing though. Like I imagine you don't really lose that, but
I saw him at the at Bethpage when they had the Open when I was in high school, and he hit literally the straightest ball I've ever seen in my life on the driving range. Like just 0 feet of curve every single time. It was ridiculous.
Wow.
Yeah, other than that, man, I mean, this is like pretty disgusting. I'll have way too much Sink and Hadley down here and sort of avoid most of these other guys. Maybe a couple of dart throws here and there, but you're talking about guys that are like 400, 500 to 1 odds down here. The last guy that I did want to ask you about is, are we just completely off Luke List? Like that's not a thing anymore, right?
Kenny talked about him. I'm not.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I didn't really have him on my list, but it's interesting that you bring him up. I mean, this was a guy that even dating back, if you guys listened to our podcast way back when we first started up, Jack Woods was huge on Luke List. He freaking loved the guy, and at first I didn't like trust some of that, but I learned to not distrust stuff like that Zach said.
Yeah.
Because it's so many times he would say shit like this, and we would sort of just like, okay, let's move on. And then out of nowhere the guys would show up. Luke List went stretches of time where he played really, really well. We haven't seen it recently, so I'm not really sure. This is a guy that I'm probably going to be late on, if anything. Like people will jump on Luke List again to get back on him, but I'm probably not going to do anything with Luke List until I see something, which means by the time it rolls around, his price will be up, and I'll probably be too late.
Yeah, I was just curious because it seemed like for a while last year, it was like, oh my God, Luke List is going to like break out and this and that. And then it just, I don't know. It seems like obviously he has the scoring upside, but it's like you're also just at a wild probability of him missing the cut. So I don't know. It's he hasn't proven good enough for me to deal with the valleys in his game right now.
And does he really have the upside to win an event like this? That's the question that I ask myself. Obviously, at this price, you don't really need him to win, but at the same time, if you're going to be rostering these guys who are highly probable to miss a cut, they're killing your lineup. So you want to have a guy who's going to have some upside. And I'm not sure whether I'm on board yet with Luke List and whether or not he has that.
For sure. Fully agree.
Now, my mouth has been silent over here as we're talking about our valued gems. Of course, when my ears are to the streets of the web.com tour and of all things that was amateur golf back in the day. But Maverick McNeely.
You're dying on this hill, Evan.
I'm okay with that. You know why? Because first of all, he's at a very nice price of $6,900. And yes, I'm going there. But yeah, Maverick McNeely, he's gonna get it eventually. Like this isn't gonna be his tournament because I don't think the course fit. is good here. But one of these days, I think Maverick McNeely's going to get it because, again, like I always say, him and Rahm were pretty much neck and neck in the amateur ranks.
Yeah, so was Bryson.
Well, we can't all catch up to the GOAT.
Yeah, we burned right by him, but Bo Hostler is one of those guys that I've been, like we know that a few of these guys are going to win throughout the year, and Bo Hostler seems like one of those guys. Maybe Mav McNeely is one, but those are guys that I'm just going to plug money into until it happens, knowing that when it does, there won't be too many other people that are doing that.
Oh yeah, no, I understand.
And you don't want to miss it.
I mean,
if this McNeely is your guy, you don't want to miss it.
Oh no, Maverick.
Do it every week.
Maverick McNeely's my dude. Let's not.
It's fine because you had that big NFL hit a couple weeks ago, so you can afford to play Maverick McNeely now. I can't afford on my teacher salary to be fucking around and trying to like hit the Maverick McNeely like top 5 one week.
Man.
Like that's not a thing. My wife will divorce me before he actually hits anything.
You have to play 1,000 lineups to make it worth it to play McNeely.
When Stephon Diggs scored that touchdown a couple weeks ago and gave me that hit, that's why that was the Maverick McNeely gods pouring down on me, saying, "Here's the bankroll, just do it." All right, that's all I got to say on them.
Godspeed on that one.
Is there anyone else in this field
no
playing? No. I'm looking at the list here. I'm not. Maybe Tyler Duncan if you really want to.
Oh my God!
You really hate yourself? Yeah. Even then. All right, let's get into some one and done picks here. Last week, what was our? Do you have our standings pulled up?
I don't. I don't want to pull it up because I had Haas and he missed the cut, so I don't really give a shit at this point. I'm already done with this. This is like fucking like season long baseball where I like lose interest after 3 weeks. Like one and done I don't have the attention span for it. I'm trying to get into it, but I'm having a hard time when my guy misses.
I was trying to beat you guys, but yeah. Give us your one and done pick for this week, then Matt, then I'll give mine.
Yeah. Did you want me to go first? Sorry, I think you cut out on that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. His first name is Tiger. No, I'm just kidding. Tiger Finau is who I'm going with. That's why I said that. Well, actually, I'm between. So you guys can talk me off a ledge here. Kenny was no help to me. I'm very new to one and done. This is the first year I'm playing, so I've been relying on my own followers on Twitter and listeners to help me teach me something. So I'm between Tony Finau and CH3 because I think if you're going to burn CH3, this is an event where he seems to have the most upside of sort of like the CH3 West Coast stuff. So, we know he's probably not going to win, but he's had plenty of second places and top fives. What do you guys think there?
It's not crazy. I mean, just based, obviously the pick itself isn't crazy, but I think based on general one and done strategy, that might be a little bit too aggressive for my taste. But I mean, again, winners, it can.
Right. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah.
I mean, have the winners.
Yeah, right. Because if you got to have like contrarian winners. I mean, that's just how I've been playing it. I mean, like you, this is my first year playing one and done as well. But what I've been reading and what other people seem to be doing that kind of works, just go with you're just going with like contrarian guys who you just think, maybe this could be their week. Like last week I went with Kevin Na. Kevin Na, he was all right. He started off really well too, but
So here's two things that a bunch of people on Twitter, when I asked a couple of one and done questions, told me, listeners and stuff that have been doing this a lot longer than I have. They said, you have to remember you only play 40 some golfers throughout the year.
Yeah.
And the winners tend to, I think the figure somebody told me was like 10 to 11 million. You have to pick, 6 to 8 at least winners, depending on the size of your one and done. And if it's really big, it's probably even more than that. So at the end of the day, basically what they said is you gotta hit the winners, whether they're contrarian or not.
Yeah.
And like the first week, a lot of people played Spieth in the shortened field, and the point they made was, well, the prize for the first week at the Hero was 1 point something million. If you get Spieth winning there, it's only 300,000 or 400,000 less than if he was first or second at the Masters.
Yeah. I don't know. There's with these one and dones, there's so much strategy. It's really fun because of it. But yeah, there's a lot of added in strategy. So Matt, who are you going with one and done this week?
Shit. All right. You know what? I think. God, I don't know, man. This is like this whole Monday picking thing is really throwing me off. But as of right now, I reserve the right to back out of this. But as of right now, I think I'm going to go with Hideki.
Okay.
Hideki's like a waste management guy. He's just so good at waste management open.
Yeah, so he's definitely someone to pick on next week. For me, I'll go JB Holmes. I'm feeling ballsy.
All right,
something about JB Holmes just sticks out.
Yeah, and we'll get Jimmy's pick, and we'll talk about it next week. Actually, I think we're having Moose on next week, so we can talk some one and done with him as well.
Oh yeah. All right, well, that'll do it for us. This has been the Bogey Free Podcast. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. Bogey Free. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That is also Bogey Free. And make sure to follow us all on Twitter. I'm at eChaney17. Matt is at MattJonesTFR. And Brad is at BeamSDFS. And of course, if we're not winning all the money this week, we hope you guys do. So good luck in your contest this week. And one more note, if someone tells you that analytics are for losers, don't listen to them. So good luck in those contests this week, guys.
See it.
See it.